What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free praise quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Speaking of entertainment, today on the program, I have the Caitlin May. Oh, you know that name. Oh, you've seen her online and cruising through your social media. Well, if you've been following me around and if you've been in my Radio What listeners group, you've seen Caitlin May, and hopefully you've heard Caitlin May. But you're going to hear a little bit more about Caitlin May, that fiery redhead out of the UK, in the next few minutes. So stick around. This week's shows, let's see. I have the one public show, my usual Friday night gig at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Yes, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. They got a full bar. The kitchen's open. Pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool, I encourage you to check out the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. That's from 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. You're the stars of the show. A little concert starring each and every one of you. Yeah, my one public gig this week, Friday night. You're invited. Come on. It's the Rab. Friday night, from 8 until 12:30 in the AM. And then on Saturday, I have a wedding on Saturday. I'm so excited, down in Benton, Arkansas. But unless you're invited, you cannot come. Why am I saying it? Because it's wedding season, and I get to be a part of another wedding. So beautiful. It's, they get to plan with me. They tell me what kind of music they want to hear, how they want the night to go. And it's my job to help to achieve that goal, to make sure that they get the best night possible. And I'm so happy. I'm privileged and I'm honored that they've instilled in me that confidence to let me be a part of the day, because there's no second chance. There's only one show, and that's your one wedding day. One wedding day. You hear me out there? One. I know sometimes things don't work out, but hopefully one wedding day, and I'll be your wedding DJ. I'm so excited. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Caitlin May. Oh, I'm so stoked. I got her on Skype. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/keysdan. Skyping Caitlin May now.
If it's white light, I just look like a moon because I'm already very pale, and then you put a white light on me and I'm just like Casper the ghost.
Oh my goodness. Oh, as I live and breathe, the vapors, Caitlin May on my video screen. Oh, for those that are listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you most definitely to check out the video version on my YouTube page, because there's Caitlin May right there. Caitlin May. All right. I'm going to sound like a weird old man because I've been stalking you for the last few years, it seems. You've been doing this for 4 years, since you were a teenager, since before you were out of school, out of grade school, out of primary school, out of, secondary school? All right. I'm kind of an Anglophile. So I do like all things British, all things English, all things from the UK. I'm a fan of Doctor Who, James Bond, Baker. Tom Baker is my doctor. Number 4. Doctor number 4. That's my doctor. I had the scarf when I was a little kid in the 70s, running around. That's back in the 1900s for you kids out there. Yes.
I was in an episode of Doctor Who somewhere along the way.
Okay. Now that is the place to start. Forget about some of that other stuff that's happened since then. What episode? Which was the doctor? I will rewatch every one of those episodes and look for you in the background. Tell me about it.
That's really bad. I should know the doctor. And I feel like a fraud. I'm trying to remember the woman's name because I can picture her in my head. And I remember like finding out some things at the time that like we weren't supposed to know just because I heard the actors and actresses, during their scenes. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But I remember that I was just one of the extras and I was super young. And there was a group of children and they were in a Dalek scene. And so we were made aware that this Dalek wouldn't move. It was just like a static, just a prop. And they start rolling. And obviously, usually they film and they film again. There are so many takes before they get the one they really want. And they start rolling and then this Dalek moves and all the kids freaked out and started screaming and like it terrified us. We were traumatized. There's definitely some therapy after that. But they only wanted the one take because they wanted our natural, raw, terrified reactions. So it was a very like quick in and out scene. We had other scenes too. That day, which took more time, but that one was such a quick one, and they were like, "Okay, break for lunch." So they're all, adequately terrified.
Well, Caitlin May, if you're not looking at the excitement on my face that you were in a Doctor Who picture, an episode of Doctor Who, and for those out there that aren't Whovians, Doctor Who is a beloved character in England, in the UK, and I wouldn't know. Do you call yourself from the UK, from England, from the United Kingdom? Caitlin May, school me.
I say from the UK, but I am from Wales. Most of my musical appearances where I was playing shows myself. So I was mostly in England when I was playing my shows. But then growing up, I started off in the musical theatre world, and that was a different thing altogether. I did used to go to London for a lot of auditions, but a lot of my shows would actually be in Wales because there was definitely more of a scene for musical theatre kids than there were for country kids. In fact, it took me up until I want to say 18 years old, which I think was around lockdown and COVID, for me to find a country music community in the UK. Before that, there really was nothing out there, or at least nothing that I knew existed. And then the lockdown happened, everything moved online, and suddenly I realized there were people in the UK just like me pursuing a music career in the country genre. So I was like, wow, this existed all along. It was just very much underground.
Well, Caitlin May, you say 18. That's like yesterday, really. But, you're from Wales. That is a very different place from England. And I know England and Wales have had their conflicts, their troubles over the years. Do you know any of that history? And is any of that history still affecting the people of Wales? And can anybody still speak Welsh in Wales?
They can. Not so much in South Wales, which is where I'm from. I mean, there are some people. And then I think it's North Wales that a lot of people speak Welsh, and they do not take kindly to the fact that we cannot speak Welsh in South Wales. And I'm sure there are many rivalries, deep-seated for lots of different reasons between England and Wales. There are none that have really affected me in the relationships that I've built with people, from England or who live in England. But I've heard some stories, and honestly, I wish I could recount them better. But the crazy thing is that when you're in high school and you're learning history and you're in history lessons, they very rarely talk about the history of where we're from. It's always where, it's somewhere else in the world. And then somewhere else in the world, they're learning about our history, which is crazy.
Well, what's troublesome about that, and I don't know if that is completely right. I think that a lot of the history is getting erased. It's getting washed over. I'll fast forward for a second, and then I want to go back. I know that you've made the trip over to Nashville, to the South, the deep South, and that history is being erased as we speak. there's statues and parchments being burned and torn down. So there's a lot of turmoil there. But let me back up to Wales. I'm kind of interested in Wales. Only thing I know about Wales is Catherine Zeta-Jones and Tom Jones. Those are my two Welsh tent poles.
Yeah, I know that people always say that beautiful voices come from Wales, and that Welsh is the language of song. So that's beautiful, and it does always sound very much like a song when people are speaking the Welsh language. I wish I could speak a little more just to show you, but it is a beautiful language. And yeah, I think I am proud of our history, and I wish that there was a little more I could share that I think would be accurate. But I do love hearing it, and I think I've been very lucky because I've done a lot of traveling, so I've been able to be immersed in different cultures, and that's where my love of country music came from, was traveling back and forth between the UK and the US, and knowing from a very young age that I wanted to make the USA my home someday. And I actually wanted that day to be very much then, in the moment. I was 2 years old my first time in the States, and I was like, I don't want to leave. Why are we leaving?
So do you have do you have that one phrase in Welsh that you can say?
I always say one of the first things that pops into my head is Shemai, because that just means hi. It's just like a greeting, just like a very laid back, oh, hey, how are you doing? I guess it has a couple different meanings, but it's just just a quick greeting. Well,
I was born and raised in Miami in the Florida Keys. It's a very tourist type of town, kind of like Nashville. You know, a lot of tourists go through. So in the hospitality of it all, you have to learn how to say hello and goodbye in about 20 different languages. So good to know, Shemai. Hey, I could say hello. But are you currently in Nashville, but somewhere on a motorcycle racetrack? Because I heard something outside rumbling.
Yeah, so we are right onto the street. So every car that goes by just likes to say hello. It likes to say Shemai. And, but I am in Nashville right now, though.
Fantastic. Shemai. That's a song right there. That's the beginning of a song, written and produced, written by you. But I want to thank the people of Dream Music Group for putting this together. It's been exciting. It's been good to watch you as you're on your journey. I guess I came to know of you and about you maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago. When I started to, see you come up on my video screen, and I was, who is this person? And as I've learned more about you, man, you are a star on the rise. And I'm going to say another cliche. You're like a rocket ship that's on the pad, and they're doing the countdown, and you're ready to get soaring into the stratosphere. You're at, 5, 4, 3, 2. The countdown is on. And you're about to head out there. There's a lot of people that already know about you, and I'm excited about that. The UK loves you. I'm sure of it. But now you are breaking in, and you've been, in Nashville about a year now?
No, so I've actually been doing a lot of traveling back and forth between the UK and the US, primarily Nashville, since May of 2022, which was kind of when the world for us in the UK opened up a little bit more, especially travel-wise, because there was quite a long period there where only diplomats could travel to the States, and I was not one of those. So unfortunately I couldn't travel, but as soon as I could, I headed to Nashville. It was the first place, and it was very, very quickly after we knew we could fly again. And I fell in love with Nashville just the way that I knew I would. I already knew I loved it, and I loved it even more than I thought possible. I didn't want to leave, but of course I had to go back and, get a lot of things in order. And I got to Nashville end of July, beginning of August. and I had some things that were in the works and lots of new music that was going to be coming out. And then back a good few weeks ago now, time is just going crazy. I went to Italy to play a festival, which I absolutely loved being a part of. And then I flew back to Nashville after that.
That's the Nashville meets Montesi. Is that it? Is that how you pronounce it? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you are well-traveled, much more well-traveled than I am. I guess I'm more of the Elvis type of traveling. He never went out of the United States and Canada, as famous as he was. And I'm very partial to Memphis as well, and the glory of Elvis. I have a key to the Heartbreak Hotel that I stayed at right across from Graceland. I know that's a few hours away from you. My mother is now living. She moved away from the Florida Keys, and she's living just a little bit south of Nashville. The only time I've ever been through Nashville is on 55. I've never taken or 40, I guess, 40 going through Nashville. I've never taken the time to stop and visit. I've heard so many good things about Nashville, and I'm glad you're there. But tell me about 2 years old, a 2-year-old Caitlin May. How did you get to the States? Who brung you?
So my mum and dad bought a holiday home, a villa in Florida when I was 2. And we would frequent there, especially for Christmas. It was our family tradition to spend Christmas there. And that was when I was first exposed to the States. And I loved everything about it. I know that we did a lot of things like going to the parks and some of the tourist things, but we quickly just almost became like locals because we made so many friends, especially in the gated community we were in, and we loved our neighbors so much. And in the end, we were some of the people who had actually been there the longest. So a lot of people had moved away, and then a lot more people had moved into these houses, and we were just there for maybe 12 or 13 years before my parents decided to sell the house. And it felt like we lost a little piece of ourselves because it was a slice of heaven. I loved it there, and I still do. And I hope that someday I can go back and visit the house maybe. And I think they still rent it out, which is what we did. We would go there, and when we weren't there, we would rent it out. And I think they possibly still do that. So maybe I could actually go back and check it out someday and see how much it's changed.
Well, you piqued my interest again, Caitlin May. What part of Florida were you in?
It was Haines City.
Never heard of it. I've lived in Florida my whole life until I was in my 40s, and I don't know Haines City. How about that?
I think it's like a 40-minute drive to like Universal or Disney, or one of the two. So it's pretty close, but still far enough away to kind of immerse yourself in other things in other parts of Florida.
Now, what's funny is South Florida is very populous, very populated. It's dense. But the Central Florida, where I think that Haines City is more rural. You could see horses and cows and cowboys. And I did watch that video about 2 years ago where you were talking about your cowboy. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Your cowboy in Nashville. Okay. Anyway, you're 2 years old. You're in Florida. I know. I'm foreshadowing. I think I'm spoiling things for the next few minutes. But your parents sold that. You went back to the UK, but you had a longing still, even at 2 years old. You still had an idea that you wanted to get back to the colonies, if you will, get back across the pond. Wait, do the English still call us Yanks and colonies?
I really don't know. Possibly. I certainly don't, but they might.
Okay, because, hey, let's go visit those Yanks over there. The colonies? No way. I wouldn't go there. I've seen that in TV shows. It's probably just for drama and fun, I suppose. And it's all in jest. I know that we're great allies, and I'm glad that things have cooled as far as our rivalries. But I'm so much more interested in school. you're learning how to play guitar when, and what else are you doing in school that's piquing your interest? What other extracurriculars are you into?
So when I was in school, unfortunately, I didn't. Is our music teacher in high school was just really not a very nice lady, and I don't think she really had a love for teaching, and it came across. And so I didn't really feel comfortable. I actually learned no instruments in high school, and then fast forward to lockdown, which is when I picked up a guitar for the first time and I learned to play. But I did do some extracurricular activities in high school. I would do sports, but then I was also a little accident prone, so I would break bones relatively frequently and then have to sit out of sports. And high school was definitely not my best time, because I was bullied in high school, and that was mostly because I did music, and even then it was a full-time career for me. When I wasn't in school, I was doing music, and I actually left in the middle of my first year exams, which is the most important time to really have a support system. And then I was homeschooled, which I didn't really have any time to fully process before I was in the middle of it. So that was another crazy experience. But I think, it's all sent to try us. And that's what makes us realize how strong we are.
Don't those bullies know they shouldn't bully a songwriter, because they're going to get a song written about them? Yeah, it's all fodder.
A lot of songs.
Yeah, all the experiences that you have in your whole life, the power, the magic that you have is you can put it to paper, put some notes on them, and make a melody out of it, and put some words to it, and make a song out of it, and make those people famous, whether they like it or not, for being terrible.
Yeah, and what I say is, if they did it, if it happened, if it's something you experienced, then it's fair game. You can write about it.
Yeah, that's what the kids say. Put them on blast.
Exactly. Expose them. They've been exposed.
That's right. Well, and you're not necessarily hurting them physically, but you're letting them know that what they did was wrong, and say no to bullying. The circle with the line through it. Say no to bullying, that kind of thing. But no,
exactly.
But
exactly.
I hate that you got bullied, and it got you out of school, but you got homeschooled. Did your mom or your dad do it, or who was doing the schooling?
I did it because my parents have their own business, and that takes up, 100% of their time, as well, on top of the fact that they also supported my career as an independent artist wholeheartedly. So that was another full-time job. And they couldn't take on teaching me as well. The high school didn't want to offer any support, so they said no to a tutor. So I actually went to a shop and I bought all of the material that I needed to be my own teacher. And I taught myself, and then I actually didn't have as long as everybody else to revise for my exams, because I'd already missed some of my exams from the first year because I was removed right in the middle of exam season. And then the following year, or the following academic year, when I'd been removed, this was after the summer that we have off, we were told by some people who were also being homeschooled or home tutored not to go straight to the education authority, because they would just put you straight back in school and say that you can't be outside of school. And my parents knew I wasn't safe there. So we were looking at alternative routes, and it actually ended up being very late in the game when we found out that I could teach myself, I could still take those exams. So I was very much behind. And rather than a 5-hour school day, it was 6, but an hour of that was lunch. Rather than a 5-hour work day, I would revise for like 9-10 hours a day just to catch up. And then I would also still be playing shows and gigging and doing everything music related. So I really had not a lot of time on my hands, and I still took all of my exams. A lot of people who were homeschooled or home tutored narrowed it down to just the very basic curriculum, which was often just English and maths, sometimes Welsh because that was our language. But I decided that I wanted to go ahead and take every single exam, all the subjects that I would have taken if I was in high school, because I didn't want to come out of that experience with less behind me than what all my other peers had behind them going forward.
That sounds like an incredible work ethic that's going to take you through your whole life. And if you put half that effort into your songwriting, this is something that you had to have gleaned this from your parents, because you say they both work hard. What kind of work are they into, and what did you learn from them?
So my dad is actually a carpenter, and he has his own business called Craft Wales, and it's become a family business because my mum actually does admin there, and she kind of keeps the whole ship afloat. She is the glue to our family. But for a long time, my dad had this business and he had somebody else in the office. And we also were full-time foster carers. So we had little babies and toddlers and often their parents or their mum. So we did mum and baby placements where my mum's primary job would be to try and teach them what it was to be a good parent. And, there were lots of different reasons why they were in foster care. Sometimes they were very young as a parent themselves and they just needed extra support. Other times they were in abusive relationships and they needed to get away from that and have a safe haven, or just didn't know how to look after a child, and sometimes not even how to look after themselves. There were so many different backstories, and I loved it because that was my whole childhood growing up, that we would have mothers and babies and these families come in and out of our lives. And it was very chaotic and lively and bustling in our house all the time. It was never quiet. And I loved it because I was always such an extrovert, and I with and share my stories with and play with when I was a child. They would be trying to feed the baby and I'd be like, let's play a board game or let's play hide and seek. That's not helpful. But I loved it. I also loved being able to take care of the babies too. And I think it just gives you so much life experience before you've even hit adulthood. And I think my parents are to thank for everything that I've learned.
Well, first of all, I love that your dad's a carpenter, someone who can work with his hands, that can build things, that can make things. I don't build things anymore. I talk into air a lot. I'm a mobile DJ and I work on the radio and I do a lot of podcasts. I don't know if I make anything that's worthwhile. When I was younger, I used to hammer, a nail into wood and screw things in and build things with concrete and steel. I used to have so much fun doing that. I need to get back into that. So yes, big ups to your dad. Now the other thing, foster care. Oh my goodness. What a different kind of experience to foster care than I've ever heard of before. My best friend in the whole world, John Canada, he's been on this podcast. Look for it. Okay. He has been in foster care. In fact, so much that they adopted the two last kids that they were fostering. They went ahead and adopted them. But his experience with foster care, and probably the few others that I've heard of, have primarily been the babies, the children only. But you say your mom was helping to teach the parents how to be parents. Is that right? Yeah, definitely. And, in some cases, there was an external element that meant that baby still ultimately went up for adoption and the parents didn't get to keep the baby. But there were lots of success stories too where they did get to keep the baby, and it was so beautiful to watch them leave and thrive and flourish and just become just incredible parents. And some of the scenarios where they didn't get to keep the baby wasn't always because they weren't capable as mothers, but it was because they didn't maybe want to leave
an abusive partner and it wasn't a safe environment for the child. There were so many different elements that came into it. And, you know, we were always really sad to watch them go, even if they were leaving as a family unit, because we would miss them living with us. But even more so if they were being separated and the baby was going to a new home, and that parent was going to have to grieve for a child who was still here but just couldn't be in their arms anymore.
Well, so many boys and, so many girls and boys, play with dolls. Although my dolls, I call them action figures. G.I. Joe. Okay. Yeah, you have to stay masculine, I suppose. But no, you had the opportunity to play with real living human beings and take care of them. That's a big responsibility for a young lady, for a young person. I commend you for that, for sure. All of them made it out safely. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say they all made it out alive, right?
They Thankfully, I would actually, this is when I was in primary school or elementary school, I think, in the US. I would actually get my mum to wake me up so that I could do the nightly feeds with the babies. So then I'd have the baby in my arms and I'd be feeding the baby, because sometimes you would give respite to the parent so they would get to have a full night's sleep, and you would wake up with the baby and do the feeds and rock them back to sleep. And I loved doing that, and I really felt like a part of something bigger than me. And I think sometimes as a child, you don't always get the opportunity to exercise responsibility until suddenly you're an adult and people say, okay, now you need to be an adult. How? Yesterday I was still a child and today I'm an adult. But luckily, I had that. I was exposed to that from a very young age, and my parents never expected me to take on that role or to take on those tasks, but I really wanted to.
Yeah, often people get thrust into situations and you either sink or swim, metaphorically speaking, of course, unless you get thrown into the ocean, then it's sink or swim. I understand. So, but you kind of let it out. You went to school in the States as well. So were you living back and forth, or was your schooling was all in England?
My schooling was all in the UK. Yeah, I never went to school in the States, although I really wish that I did, because I think the support for the arts is just widely known as a lot more encouraged than it is in the UK, or at least in the schools that I went to. It was maybe more sciences and mathematics and becoming a teacher or becoming something they considered more practical. And me wanting to be a singer-songwriter and an artist and go on tour and share my music with the world was quite a strange occupation to pretty much anybody I came in contact with.
Well, I guess primarily there's two ways to parent. You could either be a gardener or a carpenter, and the carpenter will hammer the child into a position. You're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a psychiatrist. You're going to be whatever path they want you to be. You're going to be carpentered into that. Or you could be a gardener and give people all the tools. Okay, you're interested in dancing? Fine, learn how to dance. Singing? Fine. Basket weaving? Fine. You can try all these different things. And then you'll have all the tools in your tool belt, once again, metaphorically speaking, to go on into the world. Do you feel that your parents were carpenters putting you on a path, or were they gardeners giving you different interests?
I don't think they were gardeners, and I've never heard it put that way before, but that's so beautiful. And I'm lucky that they were gardeners, because there were definitely a lot of other elements that came into it where if that was the only support and advice that I was being given, I might have gone down a very different path. But my parents always wanted me and my siblings to just follow our hearts and not listen to all the noise. There's a lot of noise, and everybody thinks that they deserve to have a say or a finger in your pie, So it's just that this is my pie. And if I want it to be a cherry pie, or if I want it to be it'll be whatever pie I want it to be. And that was my parents. That was what they encouraged. And when I said music is my path and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, they said, then let's do it. We're going to be here behind you every step of the way to support you, encourage you, and pick you up when you fall down, and, you know, celebrate all the successes along the way. So they really were the perfect parents and still are to this day.
Well, it still sounds like mom and dad still know best, and you probably still ask them for advice from time to time. Now, when you were a young person, before you're 18 years old or before you have a driver's license, a lot of times the parents have to be stage parents. So who was in charge of taking you to different gigs or different open mics or karaoke shows or, you know, whatever to get what were your first instances, your forays into the music business, getting out there and showing off what you could do?
So we were very, very close as a family, and we liked to do pretty much everything together, whether we were going to the movies or whether we were all in my parents' factory unit, and we were all putting things together and boxing things up and shipping them out. So when it came to all of my shows, my parents were really the dream team, because my dad would drive. And my dad would set the equipment up, and he'd also be the sound guy. He'd wear a million hats. And my mum was often the one booking the shows and dealing with absolutely everything behind the scenes, including helping me with keeping an online presence going, because that can sometimes be daunting and a huge workload. And she will post the same as me. I have admin now on my pages, but once upon a time, it was just me and her trying to make it happen. And especially when I was very young, I never posted to social media, and that was all my mum. It took a little while and for me to really leave high school and I left high school earlier than my peers because of the homeschooling, but to really throw myself into that side of things too, because you kind of have to learn to be a little bit of a marketing genius and put so many different hats on. It's crazy.
Well, now you're giving people gems. You're letting them know that you cannot do it all by yourself. You can get to a certain level, but then you need help. You need a team. And I'm glad that you had your parents. A solo musician needs a good sound person and a good booking agent. That's fantastic. You had two in your own family, right at that close proximity. I guess the other thing would be a photographer or a videographer, because once you're doing this gig, yes, I've got this gig. What I need is somebody to take pictures and take videos of me at this gig so I can get the next gig, because it's always a hustle. And did you have someone taking those videos?
I was actually very lucky to have a family friend who's also a photographer, and he became my official photographer for all my releases. He would sometimes come to my live shows, and then he started sponsoring me, and he still does to this day. And he's incredible. He owns the company Unique Photography Services. He's amazing. And he actually said he would like to dabble in videography a little bit too. I did have go-to videographers I used for my music videos, but a lot of the time I didn't have the privilege of having had the occasional videographer come along, or sometimes just been lucky enough that they've been there. So I have had footage over the years of these live performances to document them.
Well, at least over the last 4 years, you've really been documenting and really been diving head first into this business we call show. And going, okay, you started off as the usual way, doing a few karaoke shows in your living room, and I'm guessing that's your mom in the video helping you to record, the blonde that's in there.
Wait, say that again. In which video?
There's a music video. I guess you're singing a Miranda Lambert song, maybe in your living room. And is that your mother helping you to record Gunpowder and Lead? Probably. I know. I'm going back about 4 years ago. there's two ladies there in that video, but I don't know who the other one is, but it's nice to have people that are helping you along the way, helping you to achieve your goal. That's amazing. And me, selfish me being a video jockey, a video DJ for the longest time, ever since music videos came out and I had the ability to take a tape of a video and another tape of a video and have two video recorders and play one and then slide into another and then slide into another and then slide into another. That's the way the early days of video DJ back in the 90s. That's back in the 1900s for you kids out there. We were playing music videos, but I see you've taken the time to make some videos. You have at least 3, maybe 4. Oh, yes, quite a few more. And one thing that you've done that is probably going to help you forever and ever, as long as you live and as long as you want to do this music business. You made a Christmas song, A Candle for Christmas, Caitlin May. That one, Mariah Carey cannot be the only person that gets Christmas every year. There has to be room for other people. And that's one thing that a music artist can do to help them have staying power over the years, because every Christmas, every holiday season, they're going to be playing A Candle for Christmas by Caitlin May. And then you'll come back. You'll come back every year. Yes. And that's a great thing. What made you do A Candle for Christmas? And that's I don't know that song. Is that something that you wrote?
Yeah, so I wrote that one myself. That was a solo write. And I actually wrote 2 Christmas songs that I released that year. And one of them, they were 2 very, very different songs with 2 very different approaches. So A Candle for Christmas, which is the one that had the music video, was more aimed towards people who felt lonely at Christmas and missed somebody. And it was about somebody who was lost in the military and just trying to overcome and not so much overcome, but live with that trauma and loss. Because when you lose somebody, those are some of the most difficult times, Christmas, where you want nothing more than to celebrate with them and you don't have that privilege anymore. So it was a song for everybody out there who misses somebody. And I also wanted to have something on the other end of the spectrum, which was Christmas Kiss. And that was just for people who wanted to forget their troubles and wanted to kind of dance the night or the Christmas season away with a song like Christmas Kiss.
So beautiful. And it's amazing that you wrote those, because I did take a listen to them, and now I have the feeling of Christmas right before Halloween. Isn't that amazing? Thank you, Caitlin May, for that. All right, I do want to go through. Okay, you did have a video, Good Guy Facade. It's the last video that you have on there. It's 11 months ago, and it's you telling a story about dating. You want to relay that one?
I can definitely relay that one. Sometimes I go plan to, but I still say really to this day that I've never dated, or at least never dated on purpose, because back a year ago now, or almost a year ago, it was October of last year, I was in Nashville and I met a cowboy who referred to himself as a good-looking cowboy, which is, mistake number 1. And we met up, which I thought was as friends, and it wasn't. And I get there, and it turns out that it's a date. And 20 minutes into this date that I didn't even know I was going on, he proposed to me, and things become a little awkward at that point. And so I had to say no, which he wasn't angry about, but just looked a little crestfallen over. And we had to swiftly move on from that conversation. And then we ended up getting an Uber back to his car because Nashville and parking. So it was going to be a very long walk. And we're in the Uber, and then he asks me to be his girlfriend in front of the Uber driver, who then starts to put a little pressure on me. And I'm thinking, I don't even know where we're going. We could be going somewhere very secluded where it's just him and I. And I've already said no to his marriage proposal. If I say no to this, does this guy have anger issues? I don't know. I don't know him. So I thought I'll say yes. I go back to the UK in a week and I'll break up with him and it'll be okay. And that is what I did. So I said yes, he was okay. And later on, he dropped me back to my hotel. And I said to my parents, I have a boyfriend by accident somehow, and I'm going to break up with him in a week. But I just needed to say that out loud because it sounds crazy. And it was crazy to them too, because I'd always said, I don't really want to date until I'm 30. And I still feel the same. But that was just a little taste of maybe what dating is. And if so, then I don't want to date until I'm 40, because I'm over it and it hasn't even begun yet.
Yes, I know how boys are. That's why I don't date them. No, and these are the pitfalls of being a young lady on your own in a strange town. Back in my grandpa's day, he would ask out his, probably my now grandma, ask out that lady until she submitted and said, okay, I'll go out with you. I hope that the dating scene has gotten better than that. You're supposed to court a little bit, become friends. And yes, that whole don't date till you're 30. I fully agree with that. Stay in school. Get your career in order. Do the things that you want to do. You're made of rubber in your 20s. You can fall down, get back up again. By the time you're 30, start thinking about settling down. Possibly. You're not too old to have children, if that's what you decide to do. You're not too young to where your brain hasn't fully formed. And you're able to, I think you're on the right path that way. I've kidded. I've done a lot of children's parties and a lot of sweet 16s and quinceañeras. And one of the jokes that I say is, don't date until you're 30. Date after you're married.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think, obviously I don't know what dating was like years ago, but I think it could have gotten worse because now we have social media and a lot of it is online, which I really sometimes think makes things a lot more difficult. And personally, I wouldn't want that. I think it's nice to meet somebody the natural way and you'll know. When you'll know. And I just think when you think you're meeting up with somebody as a friend and they think you're meeting up with them as a potential wife, then somewhere along the way, you clearly got your wires crossed. I think people need to say exactly what they want. So if they didn't want a friendship and if friendship is not something they would ever want, that should definitely be discussed ahead of the proposal. Because that was 20 minutes into having a conversation with him. We'd never had a conversation before. And suddenly he's talking about us getting married. And he says, even if it's not romantically inclined right now, the love can grow and you think, whoa, how did we go from strangers to married with 3 kids in your head and a white picket fence in 20 minutes? I don't know.
That situation was red flag after red flag after red flag after red flag. Yes, that wasn't that was an experience. Hopefully you turned that into a song, wrote a song about it. Here go. And that's the Good Guy Facade.
Did, and in fact, Good Guy Facade was the first of many of its kind about this one cowboy, because unfortunately for him, he picked the wrong girl to take on a date that she didn't know about and propose to, because he is the only inspiration that I now have for dating, because he's the only person I've ever dated and I don't plan on dating for a while. So he really did make a big mistake there. And the opening line to Good Guy Facade is, "Hey, good looking cowboy," which is what he calls himself.
Well, one of the pitfalls of being famous, which is where you're heading, is that people will think that they know you because they've heard you in their ears. They've seen you on television programs. I want to find that Doctor Who. I want to find that episode. They've seen you. They've seen you online. They've seen you on their Instagram feed. They've seen you on their TikTok feed and Twitch. There's one that I cannot figure out what is going on with Twitch. I just added you on Twitch. So hopefully we both get some benefit out of that. But you're putting things out there the way that you should be doing, to get your brand, built up. It's the way the way of the world right now is we have to be out on social media so that way people remember where our shows are and who we are and maybe purchase our wares. Here's a song I wrote. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
Oh, I think I'm losing him.
No, I think you're still there.
Oh, I think it's back.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was starting to wax philosophic, but I probably went out there. But I'm what we're supposed to be doing is putting ourselves out there on social media so they remember who we are, where we're going to be. Maybe they'll purchase our songs or a T-shirt. Maybe you'll make some money doing this thing that you love so much. So you don't have to go do a job that might have been your second option. Stay with this first option. Have you had any Joe jobs growing up? A lot of kids do jobs. Have you had any regular Joe jobs as you were growing up, or is this the only thing you've been doing?
So I always wanted to work. So from a very young age, I, of course, was my mum's little helper with fostering. But then I actually worked for a mascots company, or like a princess and mascots company, where I would dress up. I was a child myself, but I would dress up for children's birthday parties. And that also meant I could implement what I was doing with my music. I could still sing and use my voice, doing that. I did run a lemonade stand for a while, and then I also worked for my parents' business because I felt that it was a family business and they were helping me with my career, and I wanted to do the same for them in any area that I could. And then for a very short while, I worked for Hollister in the UK, but that was a little short-lived because logistically it wasn't working out, because my travel was accumulating more cost than what I was making there, only being able to work part-time due to my age. So it ended up not being worthwhile. But I'm glad that I did it, because it just puts things into perspective for you and makes you realize that what you are doing, or what I'm doing with my music, is what I'm meant to be doing, because it doesn't feel like work.
What's Hollister?
Hollister is like a popular clothing brand. It's like a trendy, very on-trend clothing store. So, I did used to buy clothes there until I realized I was just doing it because it's what was cool. And actually, a lot of the clothes I buy now are not from there. Most of my stuff is very, very sparkly, which is more of a boutique style.
Well, I mean, if Hollister wants to throw you some clothes, I'm not against it. Hollister, please sponsor Caitlin May. Go ahead. She'll be your spokesperson.
That would be amazing.
And the character work, that is fantastic. I go to a lot of Comic-Cons where I get to DJ, provide the sound, the music, and I see a lot of the characters that come to the Comic-Cons, and a lot of them do those character plays. Now, here's something. Did you do officially licensed characters, or did you do Ice Princess?
I actually think they named them the name of the princess. So I assume they were official characters and they had licensing for that. I hope so.
Yeah, you can go either way. I know that some of the bigger companies that own those properties have sued the smallest company, the smallest mom and pop that was trying to go out and just make a couple dollars, maybe, feed themselves that week.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I do want to get to this one big thing that happened back, a couple 3 years ago, where you were 17 years old and you got to sing on stage with another talent that was maybe at a different level than you were. How did that come to be? Tell the people who that was.
So this was Carrie Underwood, and I'd never been to a concert before. My parents bought tickets for this concert as a birthday surprise, and then they realized that you could audition to perform with her. And they said, well, we can't keep that a secret. She'll kill us if she goes to this concert and then she sees somebody else duetting with Carrie on stage and she didn't even get the chance to audition for the opportunity. So they told me a partial story behind that I was going to this concert. There were still some surprises left in store, luckily, but I auditioned and I got it, which blew me away. And we only found out a couple days before the show. And then I performed with her on stage. No prior rehearsal. We just got up there and did it. And I had the time of my life. It was my biggest audience to date. And I loved it. I just knew that I wanted to perform in front of crowds that big and bigger and just grow as an artist. And that this was the life meant for me.
Now, this is something that you auditioned for.
Down to earth.
Because there's a lot of times where bands will go, all over the world, and maybe they'll go to a place that they're not as well known, and they'll find a local artist, a local talent to come with them and maybe open for them so they can bring somebody who's familiar and open up that area, that part of the world to themselves. Or I've also heard where people will buy into being a part of the show. You pay $1,000 and you get to open for X band that has sold millions of records. That is an amazing story that you auditioned. Were you the only person that got to sing on stage with Carrie Underwood that year, that show?
That night, yeah, that venue and that on the tour, I was the one who sang with her. She did have somebody opening up for her that night, actually, but they didn't do a duet. And it was just a phenomenal experience that I'll always think back to and hold in my heart because I just loved every minute of it.
Well, I guess if Carrie Underwood is looking to make fans one at a time, I guess there's more more efficient ways to do it, but I think she's made you a lifelong fan for sure.
Definitely. She is incredible. I loved her before that and I still love her now. I love all her music and she's got an incredible voice too.
Well, I know that you're primarily in the country genre, but you do delve into other things. Your cover of I'll Stand By You by the Pretenders, Chrissie Hynde, you made me cry as much as Chrissie Hynde made me cry. That was a fantastic effort. Who gave you this musical education where you go back to when I was a schoolboy, when I was on the bus listening to music on my big old jumbo radio set? What do they call it? Boom box. I forgot what the name of it was, but yes, I had my boom box, and I'm sure I'll Stand By You came out of it. Who taught you that song?
Thank you so much. And it was definitely my mum who suggested it. And so I did it and I loved the song too. And she really, I think, has an ear for songs that she thinks would work with my tone and my voice. And she really thought that would be a good one. And I'm glad that she told me about it.
Well, no limits for you, Caitlin May. Rocket ship on the ground, heading for the stratosphere. Well, you made a record before, and you're up with a new song. Tell me about Seasons Change.
So Seasons Change, we're all born from a place of, pain and different areas of that, because there are so many different kinds of pain and negativity and negative energy that we sometimes feel or is sent our way. And I had a difficult experience in high school with the bullying, and Seasons Change, that specific song, was about a person in my past who's no longer a part of my life, even though that, makes me sad. But I also think some people are meant to be in our lives forever, and some people are just meant to be in our lives for a season. And unfortunately, she was one of those people.
Well, you do have to let in the good and breathe out the bad. Breathe in the good and breathe out the bad. It's tough to do, and let me know when you've mastered that, because it's so difficult to keep those negativity out of there, especially on this social media. You're going to be, okay, don't look at the comments. Don't look at the comments. What are you going to do? You're going to look at the comments, and you're going to see that one bad comment out of 100 great comments. Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
Something about comments, but right. I think it broke up before that.
Okay. Don't look at the comments. Yeah. And what are you going to do? You're going to look at the comments. So 100 great comments. You're wonderful. You look great. You're fantastic. I'm impressed by you. And then that one comment. Oh, I don't like the way your dress looked. What are you going to dwell on? That one comment. Oh, social media. And you've grown up with it. You know nothing else. But
yeah, that's true. I always felt really lucky because, and this sounds strange to say this, but my debut EP Perspective was all about my relationship with my older sister. And that was a very turbulent one and a very difficult one. And I always felt that she trained me for the bullying that then followed in high school, because I never really felt like they could hurt me the way she did, because she knew me on a much more personal level, and she'd been there from day one up until, that time in my life where I was in high school experiencing that. And, people would say mean things, but often those things are surface level because they don't know enough about you or want to take the time to get to know you to be able to say things that cut as deep as somebody who, plays a sister role, which is what she was. And I guess she didn't really play a typical sister role because she wasn't the sister that I expected, and that I really longed for, but she was still a sister nonetheless. And I really felt like she put this armor on me that I then wore into battle, which was high school. And I feel that I came out relatively unscathed just because she taught me what it was like to go through hard things and to be treated really badly. So high school kind of felt like water off a duck's back a little bit, even though it was difficult.
Yeah, your family and your friends can be your greatest weakness and your greatest strength all at the same time. I say that about my family, and sometimes they take it wrong. I say, you are my greatest weakness because I don't want anything to happen to you, but you're my greatest strength because you build me up, and that's what they're supposed to be doing. Hey, I have a brother like that too. Yeah. I fight with him like crazy. And look, I love the guy. He's always going to be my brother. I love the guy. Okay. But I know I've taken a lot of your time, and I hope that we've covered all the things that you wanted to cover, or at least, scratch the surface. I know you have that new song, Seasons Change, comes out Friday the 13th. So I better put this up real quick so people know to go find that song. But where do they find you, Caitlin May?
So they can find me across all social media platforms at Caitlin May Music. And yeah, the EP comes out this Friday. I'm so excited. There's one unreleased track on there that nobody's heard. The other 3 were released as teasers. It's available to pre-order and pre-save ahead of Friday. But I know that's fast approaching, and I'm just excited for the songs to be theirs and to be out into the world.
Friday the 13th. Oh my goodness. It's scary. It's scary. What do you think about Halloween? Do you dress up?
I do. I'm actually currently looking into a costume from Toy Story. So Jessie. So I don't have to wear a wig. So I could just plait my hair and put on a cowboy hat. But I'm trying to find an outfit. So that's my my priority.
Oh, and one final thing before we get out of here is you were an athlete in school. Do you still have an exercise regimen?
I wish I could say that I did. Sometimes I still work out, but I'm somebody who will like get into it and work out like crazy for 8 weeks and then not work out for 8 months, which doesn't really get you anywhere. But I do love ice cream and chocolate and all things sweet, which is probably also not helping. A little bit of a coffee addict, but along the way, somewhere in there, I work out every now and again.
Well, no, that's the kind of personality, a creative personality can put themselves wholeheartedly. It's kind of like an addictive personality. You could be songwriting, playing song, playing music, working out. You know, if you get addicted to something, make it something good. And it looks like you have a lot of good things that you're addicted to. You're addicted to the big crowd, the roar of the crowd, the energy that you get from them when you're playing your song. I feel it when you were at Carrie Underwood. And yes, you could find that, my loyal listener. You could find that on your YouTube page. And all those links are going to be in the show notes right down there. So go click them and follow Caitlin May. Be the next stalker, because that's such an accurate word. Wow. No, and I was finish these. Do you want to give some shout outs to people that have helped you along the way? I know you gave a shout out to your photographer and maybe your videographer and your mom and dad, of course, but give some shout outs to people that have helped you along the way.
Definitely a huge official shout out to my parents. They're a huge inspiration to me every day and such a huge support. A huge shout out to Unique Photography and my photographer Steve and his family, because I love them and they are like family. A huge shout out to Kim too, who is my manager of Dream Music Group, and he's incredible. He's a huge part of my journey. And last but not least, a huge shout out to my dreamers. They're all so incredible, and I just hope they're on this journey with me forever. It wouldn't be the same without them.
I love that you have a name for your group. All of the major artists have names for their groups. The Monsters, you have names. You have Dreamers. They're out there. Okay. I always finish these things off with last words for the people. This could be, I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. As time progresses and you have other things to promote, come on back and we'll chit chat for a little bit more. But I finish these things off with last words to the people. It could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, maybe a mantra that you wake up with every morning, or whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Caitlin May, give the last words for the people.
So I live by, just being myself. And I think it's so important that everybody knows that you are enough. So you should wake up every morning and look at yourself in the mirror and like the person that you see. And if you're at a point in your life where you don't feel that way, definitely embark on that journey, because it's so important. And last but not least, remember that the seasons do change. So how you feel today, tomorrow.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be that good. My loyal listener, you have heard Caitlin May. She is a star on the rise. Already a star, really, but just rising higher and higher and higher. I see great things. Caitlin May, I mean, you're starting off in that country, but I know that you can do pretty much anything you want. Pretty much anything you want. And when you go to a Caitlin May show, you're going to get a good show. I've seen a lot of the videos on your YouTube page. They're videos of you at various functions with Caitlin May and the band. So I'm sure you'll find a good group of people to back you up in Nashville, Music City, if you will. And there'll be more and more shows, and not just in Nashville, but beyond. All over this great planet of ours. I expect to see Caitlin May and everybody knowing the name Caitlin May. Super. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for being on the What Makes You Famous program. I appreciate that so much. I'm humbled to that you chose to talk to me today. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, my loyal listener, if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call. 470-6386 or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's keysdan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.